Hello guys, something a bit different today. Going to do a mixture of polymer clay and I'm basically going to build a diorama using popsicle sticks, super glue and whatever other little bits and bobs I can find. I have this wooden circle I'm using for a base, which gave me the idea to have like a zombie breaking through the floor. And obviously these wooden sticks I'm going to trim up to look like floorboards, and eventually you will see breaks like he's breaking through the floor. And I'm also going to put another zombie on it. So it's basically another zombie, but with a diorama this time. This is an armature that my partner was working on, and she wasn't quite happy with the proportions, so she discarded it. And as I'm doing a zombie, who really cares about the proportions? And I've made another armature here, mainly silver foil, a little bit of wire. Now I've done the armatures first because just to try and keep the video short enough. Okay, so the first job, as you've seen before, polymer clay. So what I'm hoping to do is I'll sculpt this guy, bake him, stick him in place and maybe paint a certain amount of it, and then I'll start building up the diorama. So it's a sculpture first, a diorama, and then we'll finish with the last guy like this. So first thing, we get our polymer clay, super sculpey I'm using, and we start to cover all the foil until we're happy we've got something we can sculpt on. But it's quite a slow job, so let's speed things up, shall we? So we've got him basically covered in clay, and pop him out of here, bake him. Well, I could even bake it with this piece of wood. It's not going to make a lot of difference. It's such a low temperature. If anything, it might loosen some of the varnish on the wood, but I don't care because I'm covering it with stuff anyway. So anyway, so the next thing is start adding the detail on this guy. We'll do the head separately and attach it after, be easier. And then once we bake this guy and stuck a little token bit of paint on him, we can start with the diorama. So far I've decided to add some tentacles onto it. So you see, now onwards with the other arm, the head. Shouldn't take too long this one, seeing as it's only half a figure. Then I can bake it and move on to the actually building the diorama. See, now I've got to this stage where he's got a couple of arms. So basically I just need to make the head now, do a bit of chest detail and get him baked before I end up breaking anything off. It was originally going to be a zombie, but I'd never draw anything down. I just kind of have an idea in my mind, so it's now some parasite infested zombie, maybe. Right, onto the head. So for the head, I normally ball up a bit of silver foil, tin foil, whatever you want to call it, but it's really quite a small figure. I mean, if I put my thumb right next to it, you can sort of get the size. So I'm just going to make it straight out of a piece of clay. I mean, it's probably best to sculpt your head on something. Say, for instance, I don't know, I'll find something better in a minute, but just to show you guys. Something like this, maybe with a smaller ball to hold that in place, and then if you do the neck longer, sculpt the head on top of there, just snip it off after. It's a lot easier than trying to hold a small piece of clay without breaking everything you've just done, squashing everything you've just done. But there you go. Anyway, on with the head. So here we have him so far. It was originally going to be a zombie breaking through some floorboards, but it's now turned into some kind of alien, Lovecraftian, cosmic horror. Anyway, I'm happy with this guy. So I'm going to bake him, and then we'll move on to the diorama. Well, bake him and just put a bit of paint around the bottom where bits of the diorama will meet and we won't be able to paint later. Then start building up the diorama. So here we have the figure out of the oven. Nice and hard, although just be careful with your fragile bits. Nice and hard. I'm ready to fix in place. So, first thing, back to the base. Trusty super glue. So just stop him popping out when I don't want him to. Right, so while that's drying, I'm gonna, before I do anything, I'll put some black where the floorboards are meeting. So the next thing, these are too wide for floorboards, scaled floorboards anyway. So what I normally do, I get a scalpel. You just have to kind of score. And then these are just the right size, really. These sticks are like lolly sticks or popsicle sticks, whatever you want to call them. And I think these ones particularly are for leg waxing. So I'm sure you can find where to get some of these. So basically the concept is we're going to put in all these floorboards. Obviously staggering them as floorboards would be, and then the pieces where it meets the figure will be, I could just gently, if you gently snap them, they don't snap entirely, bring them like that, or something along them lines. Okay, onwards we go. This stage completed, nice and dry. I use a hairdryer to dry me in between coats of paint, just purely because I'm impatient. You could just go off and have a brew or something, but me, I'm too impatient for that. So the next step is to start layering the floorboards. Once that's done, we'll give everything a coat of black, well, all the floorboards, everything on the diorama. And then we'll start painting it all. Here we have the floorboards in place. Doesn't look much at the moment. Needs trimming around the circle. Excuse me. It also needs drying for a bit as well. And that's the start of it. On to the next section, which is to paint all the floorboards black. Right, so we've got a diorama painted, or primed. And you can see I've given the figure a bit of a black wash, which will come in handy later. A few of my little pieces have broken off, but I can fix them. So the next stage, we're going to put some dirt, maybe some bits of moss on the diorama, on the ground. Maybe put a few more floorboards, that's the word I was looking for, sticking out, I don't know yet. And just some little bits and bobs to make it a bit more interesting. Making sure, obviously I'm having this other character will eventually be on there, that I leave enough room for him. So I'm going to be using stones and sand from the garden, nicely dried out. Some craft glue. Takes a while to dry this stuff, but dries solid. And for more immediate stuff, a glue stick from a glue pen, a glue gun I mean. The glue gun I got is so slow, I tend to just light the end of the glue stick with a lighter and actually use the actual stick to stick things on. Right, so on we go. Alright guys, so all the stones and everything have been given a dry and have been given a coat of black to prime them. I also added a few more broken floorboards. And I've browned them as well. So the next stage is we're going to be painting the diorama using a technique called dry brushing. Now I'm going to show you on this. Most of you all know what dry brushing is, but for those of you that don't, I'll give a quick demonstration. So you start with a dark base colour. With these floorboards, I'm going to be using 3 different types of brown. I'm going to be using this, which is burnt umber. And then I'm going to go on to a more reddy brown, which is burnt sienna. Finally, just quite lightly, for the highlights, we're going to have some, you can see that, some yellow ochre. All acrylics. Right, so we'll start off with the burnt umber. Basically, what we need to be doing, making sure our brush is clean. I should probably change that water before we actually start painting the model. We get paint on a brush, quite thick, no water, and then wipe as much of the excess off. I'm using a piece of kitchen towel, you can use a rag. And then what we do is we gently brush building up layers so that doesn't look much at the moment, but it's a gradual process. What we're just doing is to show you. Next, the more reddy brown. Same again, use your rag, wipe off the excess. Same sort of technique. So basically you just keep building up layers like this, and you'll notice it all come together with your final colour. I sometimes use my hand, find it easier than keeping it in a rag. So if you can see with the yellow, how it's starting picking up the texture of the stick. Anyway, so that's the next move. On with the dry brushing. So as you can see, if I bring the light closer, it's a pretty effective technique. It just takes time and just do small layers at a time. Just gradually keep building it up. Right, the next thing is to pick out all the little bits of rock and moss and paint them, and then we'll be ready to do the figure. So now we have some colours on the actual character, base colours. So now it's just a matter of lightening up highlighting with some dry brushing. And then pretty much it, I think. A bit of dry brushing, maybe pick out a bit of details of the eyeball, and that's pretty much it for this section. Here he is. Finished this section anyway. Obviously I might touch some bits up when I put the second figure on. Bound to be a bit of a mess. And it all needs varnishing. As you can see, the second figure will kind of stand behind this one like that. But I'll do this in a separate video, otherwise it will just be too long, the video will. There you go anyway. Weird cosmic horror. Breaking through the floor diorama. You can see from this angle, putting a bit of light towards it. Detail on them. Right guys, thanks for watching. I shall continue this in part 2.